21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Similar to a lot of other countries, our credit system is very, very broken. The way in which we score human beings and assign a risk metric to them is backwards. And what it does is it makes it so that those out there that just need a little bit of float, that just need a little bit of help, it's harder and harder for them to get it without having to pay a huge cost and burden in the form of fees and those of us and those that don't need a little bit of float, that have plenty of cash or plenty of credit, it's easier and easier to get more and more of it. Right. And so, I think the system was designed, hopefully, to help people out a bit. But, it hasn't kept up with the times. It hasn't kept up with the economic changes and inflation versus income not matching up. And, unfortunately, the majority of the US adult population doesn't have access to traditional financing or lending facilities, or even things like buy now, pay later, which is what we are, because of the broken credit scoring model. So that's why we exist. We can approve and work with, the half of the US population that the others have largely locked out because their models are on yesterday's technology and way of scoring people. When I was 19 years old, I wrecked my credit, making a poor decision that was nobody's fault but my own. But I took out a credit card and I went on vacation with some friends from college because I didn't have the cash, right, to pay for that. But I didn't know credit. I didn't know how scoring system judges those that make a poor mistake at their fault or not. And so that was my first taste, because a decision as a naive 19-year-old that didn't know anything about the consequences of defaulting on credit, it cost me the better part of the next 10 years of my credit score. And along that journey, I was declined for apartments that I could afford because my credit score wasn't good enough. Or when I was in my first sales job and doing exceptionally well, I was actually selling roofs. I started out in construction. I went to buy a truck. And while I had months and months and months and months of consistent good cash flow and banking data, my credit score still wasn't where it needed to be. And I couldn't get a loan to purchase a truck that I needed for work. And that was my first taste of what I now say is that credit score is not an indicator of affordability. All right, so we set out, I ended up going through a career of 12 plus years, and specifically in payments, mostly on go-to-market and generation and, go-to-market sales partnerships, taking over and launching new markets. But I've always kept my eye out for the opportunity to build something that breaks a model that I learned at a very young age is very broken. And so that's why I came here. That's why I walked away from a pretty cush job, to take a bet on doing something here. So Flote is buy now, pay later, by definition, in terms of a consumer using us can acquire a good or a service, and we pay that merchant or that seller in full, and then the consumer repays us over 1 to 4 payments, right? What Flote is, though, is in the US today, you've got over half the entire adult population that either has a subprime credit score, and for the most part, anything that they qualify for is going to come with high interest or fees or penalties. You've got an ever-expanding gig worker economy, right? These are your delivery drivers, your creatives, your podcast hosts, right? And because they don't have consistent employment data and income, That largely counts against them in most of the credit scoring models. You've got young adults like I was when I was 19 and wrecked my credit that are, 18 to 25s that are establishing credit. And then within that population, you've got a lot that are credit averse. They've heard the horror stories, and they just don't want it. They just want a better way to manage their cash and spread it out. So what Flote does is we're the first buy now, pay later that judges a consumer's based on their actual affordability and cash flow circumstance. And we do so because they link their financial institution, their debit account, and essentially we can take a look at that and say, how frequently do they have money coming in versus coming out? What are their average balances? What's the age of the account? And what we have is an alternative scoring model that leverages open banking and real-time cash flow analytics that enables us to approve that person based on the financial health or situation that they're in, not based on some scoring metric that is a snapshot, good or bad, of the past 10 years of their life. It has not been easy. It's been it's 24/7 to an extent, right? For every obstacle or hurdle that you solve or navigate, you find two or three more waiting on the other side of it, right? A lot of it is the fact that as simple as our model sounds and as good as it sounds, people have been given false promises about things that are beneficial to them in the past, right? And that helped their financial health and didn't turn out to do so. So, from the simplest standpoint, one of the hurdles that we're constantly trying to overcome is just that trust from consumers, merchants, that we really are different. To build something yourself, right? And to have to choose how to do we build this all from scratch, and potentially risk delaying launch, which didn't end up being the case, or do we take on partners and bring on a ton of tech debt that maybe enables us to do things quicker, but then we end up paying long-term consequences for it and trying to unravel some of that. So just constantly navigating the different situations, getting banks to fund a startup, any kind of a startup or new business, right? When you need a little bit of float, what we're trying to do for consumers, the financial institutions aren't quite ready to do for us yet. So we've had to build those inroads and find debt facilities from people and institutions that believe in what we're doing, which is not easy. Um, so it's constant daily learning from your mistakes, navigating the hurdles, understanding that half the time you're going to make the wrong choice, but learning how to identify it quick and pivot even quicker. Um, it has been a process, but it's weird. You know you're in the right seat and you know it's what you want to do when you can look back at all the pain and headache that you've been through and say, I would do it again. With us, it's credibility is everything when you're getting a new business off the ground, right? Relationships, partnerships are everything. And one of the things that I love, and it's been proven to us, is that people remember when you treat them right. People remember when you do good business for them, or you give them a heads up on potential bad business and walk away because you can't do what they need. I've built a career on partnerships, right? On people where if I couldn't do what they were looking for, I told them, but then also set the expectation of, but please answer the call when I do call because it'll mean something's changed, right? So for me, one of the greatest things about our business model is not only the good it stands to do, but the fact that we were able to get so much further ahead because myself and the senior leadership team and other founders brought a career's worth of credibility, not just expertise and knowledge. So when we decided to hit go and build this thing, right, we had people on the other end of the phone that were willing to pick up and take our call, right? And so that alone, accelerated our growth to launch. by months being able to go out and get partnerships and such that often wouldn't even take the call of a company our size, right? And so that was, to me, the most rewarding piece is that you get to see all the sweat that you put in over the years, doing right by people, even though we're all trying to make a dollar. And people remember that. If I were to give a little bit of advice or guidance on what should be thought about doing it all over, I would say don't try and boil the ocean and don't start thinking about all the things that you're going to have to do, because if you do, you'll quit today, I promise. The biggest thing is to just figure out what is the next step right in front of you. Me personally, I love to compete in endurance sports, whether it's ultra running or Ironman triathlon, right? If you thought about the distance that you have to go the whole time, it's going to hurt you so much more than it's going to help you. So just focus on the next milestone, the next step, right? Find the next corner and get there, and then figure out what the next spot is. But you should always just stay laser focused on, in order for everything else to happen, what are the one or two things that must happen now? Um, and then I think also you're going to bring on a small team to start. If you're lucky enough, you have people that are really bought into your vision, but you have to bring on people that understand that everybody's wearing multiple hats, everybody's go to market, everybody's operations, right? And so you have to do a great job of, as a founder, of reminding them of what the ultimate destination is, what it leads to. Because believe it or not, it's hard for the founder, but it's just as hard for the people that jumped in and bought in to stay focused on the mission. So help remind them of what the next corner is, not how far away the finish line is. So for me, it's not only just finding something that you're passionate about and breaking it or improving it, depending on what sort of passion you have for it. But for me, it's about like the responsibility of being a founder. If your idea does lead to what you know it can, make sure it helps some along the way, or make sure it serves a purpose or can be used for a greater purpose. For me, you know, one of the things that we hold true to at Flote is innovation does not have to mean exploitation, right? And so we keep that at the forefront of everything we do in terms of the consumer is first. The problem that we're trying to solve, it becomes a greater problem if we don't put the consumer first at all times. So it's our responsibility to provide access in a responsible way to the people that are locked out, but to ensure that our model can never be used to exploit them. If you want to know more about Flote, which is Flote, you can visit us at flote.com. Any of our social handles are Get Flote. But also peter.m at flote.com. You can reach out anytime, or Peter Maher on LinkedIn. Whether you're a college dropout who's wanting to start a business and learn from some of my mistakes and learnings along the way, or whether you just want to know more about how Flote could serve your business or serve you as a consumer to help spread out your cash flow, reach out. We'll get back to you, and we're happy to have conversations.
21st Century Entrepreneurship with Martin Piskarik.
Imagine a space where triumphs, trials, and tales of entrepreneurship come alive. Welcome to the 21st Century Entrepreneurship Podcast, a gold awarded journey hosted by Martin Piskarik, connecting with listeners in 95 countries and ranking in the top 0.5% of all podcasts. Join our exclusive community elevate your perspective, and embark on the path to success.